Zoom and recording. No,
It's like, "This is being recorded," and I'm like, "No shit, Sherlock, I got it."
no, podcasts are open game. That's like
Ok
the
okay, well, you
courtesy.
can use this clip at some point too if you want. This could be one of our little short clips.
Yeah,
TikTok
right.
clip.
All right.
Did I say tip top? I meant TikTok.
Tic tac talk, TikTok. All right. Anyways,
Okay.
what's up, guys? We're back for another episode of Don't Do Stupid Shit with me, Jeshua, and Mom, otherwise known as Christina. I am still in LA, and she is in Seattle right now. I know.
Yeah.
My video, if we put the video on this, I know this is we'll get into this in a second, but if we put the video on this episode, you'll see my screen is pretty grainy and mom is sitting in a car. So I don't know. But
Quality.
yeah, we might not put the video anyways, just because I'll let you kind of explain that, mom.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we might skip on the video because I like to keep my ugly crying to myself. And there might be some tears in this one. Um, but we said we were going to try to do this every week. And so, oh God, the tears are already starting.
Stop.
Um, we're showing up where we are in life because that's what the point of this podcast was. And so, yeah, so we're showing up real. We're showing up where we are in life. And we're not trying to put on any pretenses. And, you've heard in our first two podcasts about that, life is hard and things don't always go the way you hope and the way you plan. And, but you just have to like figure it out and keep going. So, um,
Do you want to give a little context as where you're at right now in life? What's going on
sure.
with you?
Yeah. I'm really sad and I'm grieving um a lot. Joshua's dad and I have been married a really long time. We've known each other since we were 5. And this has kind of been on the table for a little while, but it's just really becoming official now. But uh I've decided to I can't say we because I think it was more my decision, but um we will be getting a divorce. And, you know, um, that's not what I planned for my life. I mean, I get it. Like, I think everybody says that they don't plan for that, but I really didn't plan for that. Um, I love Joshua's dad a lot. He means the world to me.
Yeah.
See, this is the ugly
This
crying.
is so this is the ugly crying we're talking about. Um, I don't know. I like obviously, I got immense love for both of you guys. Whether you're together or not, I'm never gonna, pick sides or turn on one of you guys. I know, as you kind of mentioned, like this has kind of been a roller coaster, I guess, especially um, as of recently. Uh, this is like you said, been kind of on the table for a little bit now, but obviously, I feel like from my perspective, you know, you guys both deserve to be uh, happy and content in life, and uh, again, whether that's together or separate, you're still gonna have, love from your children and the people around you. I know you guys have an enormous amount of love for one another, and um, I think
Yeah.
you made a comment yesterday. I was talking to you yesterday, and you said something about what was it? You were talking about love and how, shit. I'm trying to have it come to mind. I can't remember. You said something specific though that was like along the lines of like, you can still love one another, like you still have an immense amount of love for him, but sometimes, you don't get to choose like the way life kind of bring it was something along those
Yeah.
lines. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I remember exactly what I said. I've been crying a lot and saying a lot of things. But I think I know the message that I always try to send in this journey, which is that, you know, any relationship, whether it's a marriage or sibling or parent and siblings or friends, you come to it with a lot of things. You come to it with your personality, you come to it with the things you've experienced in your past, you come to it with trauma that you've experienced. And, everybody takes a journey that they choose in life. And, how I choose to deal with what I've been through in my life and move forward isn't, the same as how everybody else chooses it. And sometimes you find yourself on paths that just are not they're not connecting, they're almost pushing away from each other. And
Mhm.
um that doesn't mean that you love the person any less, it doesn't mean that they haven't been an incredibly important part of your life. It just means that, your paths are maybe going in a different direction at this point. And where you fight so hard to keep the path together, sometimes it's just not meant to be. And that leads to, more hurts and more things. And, the last thing you want to do when you love somebody is hurt them, right? So, um, I think the thing that's so profound to me and that I process a lot is that, we all come into this world and we're dealt a set of circumstances, every person on this planet.
Mhm.
And we have no say in what those are, who we're born to, the socioeconomic class we're in, the country, all these different things, the family, the family history, the family trauma. And those have a heavy impact on, your life going forward. I really believe that they can be mitigated and worked through, and they can be explored, and areas of them can be healed, and you can move forward, releasing some of those things and recognizing how they impact how you relate to others and how you show up for yourself, even how you love yourself. And, but they impact you. And then the output of how you deal with those things impact others. And it's this constant cycle of, you know, we can't live with inside a vacuum. You've heard me say that a lot. We talked
Right.
about that the other day on the podcast, like that ripple effect of our choices affecting each other. And, that cycle continues. That is the cycle of life. And, at this point, I just I want to stop hurting, but I want to stop repeating the cycle of hurt for, the people that are in that ripple path. And one of those people is you, your sisters, there's a lot of people. And,
Sure.
you just, you do the best with what you can, and you grieve what's out of your control.
Yeah.
You can't control another person. You can't, all you can do is show up as real and true as who you are, and then love and grow accordingly. And you gotta let everybody, in make their path.
Yeah. Nah, for sure. I mean, this is obviously, like I said, I will never doubt the love that you guys have for one another. Um, and obviously, you guys have been fighting to make it work for a long time. I know you've talked about, your thoughts on divorce and wanting to fight so hard to not ever, walk that path. But I mean, unfortunately, sometimes, that's just what life calls for. And
Yeah.
this is one of those things that I think, like, at least I can say for myself, like, I don't know, since I'd say being in high school, like, it was always back and forth, well, are they going to split? Are they not? Are they going to split? Are they not? And
Right.
there was times where felt like things were like going up and getting better. And then there's times where the complete opposite would take place. And I figured, oh, that's it. Like they're finally, well, I think this time around it feels pretty official that this is
I
kind of
shouldn't
what.
be laughing. That's nervous laughter.
No, I mean, yeah, it's truth though. I feel like this is kind of where things are starting to finally take their course. And I don't look at, I mean, where I feel, sad, and I feel, I hurt for you guys because I know this isn't what either one of you necessarily wanted. I
No,
also,
not at all.
yeah, thanks for emphasizing. I
I
think
just
we
want
knew
to make
that
it
from the
really clear.
I think we realized that from the ugly crying off the rip. So no, but I think that at the same time I truly believe, and I've communicated this to you plenty of times. I think there's beauty that can come from it, and that there's growth, and a new process for you to be able to find content and happiness within yourself. And ultimately, like, with the time you have left here, I mean, because again, we
Yeah.
talk about this all the time, like I was just saying yesterday, like in that video I recorded, you never know, like, tomorrow really is not guaranteed. And if you feel like you're stuck in a place of sorrow and hurt, and you shouldn't be there. And again, me and Jada, my sister, have talked about this, like just wanting to see you guys each individually happy and healthy. Like that's all we
Yeah.
really care about is, if you guys are healthy and you're happy, then we're good. Doesn't matter whether you're together or not. And I know, I would say in high school and stuff, like it was a bit more confusing and frustrating and stuff, but obviously I'm 22 now, so it's not like, your guys's separation, divorce, or anything like that really. Um, it's out of my control ultimately. So, uh, yeah, it
Yeah,
does
I mean,
in a sense have an effect on us, right? Just like every
for sure.
decision and outcome, but at the same time, um, it's not an effect I would say that's gonna ruin my life. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not.
Yeah, I mean,
That
it's
would
not
just
gonna.
make it feel so much worse. I
No.
mean, I do think that at this point, like, we've talked about this and you know, when your dad and I got together, we were really young, and we didn't have a lot of support, and we really threw ourselves behind the idea that our number one job was to try to get this thing right, to try to be the best parents we could be with, some of the limited resources and some of the struggles we came into it with, and we wanted to be like the best couple and the best partners, And that's not to say that at times we haven't been really great at that,
Yeah.
but then at times we've been really bad at that, And I think that's real. And you know, for anybody that's listening to this or watching it, Josh and I talked about whether we do this today or whether we try to come up with a different topic to talk about, but it felt really disingenuous to try to just glaze over it and have a different conversation because these are the conversations that we set out to have as a mom and a son and with each other and as a family. And this is who I am and it's how I show up in the world. And,
Mhm.
I am, it's a sensitive topic. So, we're being really gentle with it and it deserves that. But it's real, you know, and
It's what's happening right now. I mean,
it's what's
again,
happening now.
I think you hit it on the nose with like the idea that we could have came on here, talking about some random topic or something that, you really didn't feel connected to right now and was maybe it probably if we did that, I think it would have just been a boring, like very disingenuous episode. I feel that way. And
Yeah.
I think coming on here and allowing for where this whole episode won't necessarily be us just talking about this specifically in the divorce or anything like that. I feel like it's important that we addressed it and that,
Yeah.
it's there because that's the truth and that's where you're at in life right now. It's a hard time for you. I mean,
Yeah.
this is not easy.
Definitely.
And, um, I don't
No,
think
it's
anybody's gonna judge you for your crying or I mean, it happens. I cry. It's healthy to cry. I mean,
yeah, it is.
that you
And
care,
I
shows that
yeah,
you
exactly.
have emotions, that you're a real human. Like anybody that matter of fact, anybody that says they don't cry or like this and that, that's just a bullshit, sorry
I just
excuse
think if
for
you don't cry, you're not living. Like
yeah,
somewhere you
facts.
shut yourself off. Somewhere you have disconnected from reality. Because if you don't cry in life, whether it's sad tears or happy tears, I mean, I've cried happy tears, but
I don't really
you know,
cry happy tears. I won't.
you will at some point.
Maybe. Well, maybe like yeah, when I have a kid or something like that.
Yeah, you will, you will, you will.
I would
But
say
yeah,
the
I mean,
tears I've cried are like I lost somebody close to me or I'm going through something extremely hard and like
yeah, for sure. I
uh,
mean, tears definitely come, far more often, I think, with the hard stuff. But the point is if you're not crying, I guess I would ask you, are you really feeling? Are you really living? Because life invokes emotion. It's
oh, we're back to the tears. Uh,
to the tears. Um,
it's okay. Life invokes you're saying. Sorry.
no, it's okay. Um, life evokes real emotion.
Yeah.
And when you're really like living, when you're really present, when you're trying to be present, when you're letting yourself experience what's happening, um, my view is you can't help but, let it come out and it comes out in different ways. And I guess for me, I always say like, if I'm not crying, then I gotta be laughing about it. And if I'm not doing either of those, I'm probably super angry. And that doesn't feel great. So it's like laugh or cry, like one of the two is much better than,
True.
you know, being angry and holding it all inside.
Well, and you're exerting a lot of energy by being angry.
Yeah,
A lot more
exactly.
than a lot more than being sad or laughing, crying, like you're just
I would agree with
exerting
that.
a lot more energy, and it's unnecessary energy in my opinion. I mean, I wanna actually kinda move into this a little bit because I think it kinda bridges to that. Just talking about, I mean, I used to spend a lot of energy, right, being angry and
Yeah.
like whether it was wanting to fight or this and that, exert this anger in some sort of form. Like I think there's power to vulnerability and just being real about what you're going through and learning how to process it in a healthy, um, original way. Like I think society, like we've talked about, really like enforces, some ideas and concepts, especially I'll put it for me because I can only speak as a young man, but especially in men, like in young men, that you have to, handle things a certain way or, react a certain way, and that you
Definitely.
need to like bottle shit up and not process through it. I mean, obviously, like without getting into too much, I think that's something that's affected my dad and me and plenty of other, like any men that are listening or watching this right now. I mean, there's plenty that I know personally that have done the same thing, and at the end of the day, it's it's ultimately it's cornered us and it's put us into a position where we can't live a healthy life. You get so
Yeah.
used to bottling and, you know, exerting all this energy as anger and so on, and it doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't help. It doesn't, make things better. I mean, it
Yeah.
definitely doesn't make things better. I mean, all these times when I was younger and angry and was exerting all this energy trying to, be angry and fight and do all this, like it may have provided a temporary fix or like feeling of like,
Like an outlet, like kind
yeah,
of sort of a surge of an outlet, but it certainly didn't fix or answer anything.
no, definitely. And I mean,
In
don't get me
reality, it
wrong,
probably made it worse.
I will say I think there's times when like like obviously talking and stuff, but sometimes being able to like, you know, box it out with your homies or, you know, maybe hit, the bag or
Listen,
something like that. Like that stuff's healthy in my opinion. But
you've heard me talk about how if I could, I would have a corner in my house where I can just break shit. Like, that's my way of like letting it out.
yeah,
I mean,
just
you
throw
have to
plates and
acknowledge
stuff.
anger. You can't ignore anger. Anger is a real emotion. The thing about anger is that it's generally covering something else. It's
Right.
usually covering fear or hurt or loss or shame. It's usually they call it, I think, a secondary emotion in the sense that it's not the primary driver.
It's
It's like
meant
this
to it's
reaction.
masking the real emotion behind it.
Right. And like that's the thing is that when you ignore anger, you're also ignoring whatever's underneath that. And that is the real crux of what needs to get like looked at, and like brought to healing or brought into the light or and so you have to be able to sit with your anger and acknowledge that it's there. You can't cling to it because then all you do is rage and create more problems. But if you can sit in the anger for a moment and ask yourself what's underneath this anger, usually that answer is the real thing that you're experiencing and that is the real driver behind the choices you're making or the hurt that you're suffering with.
Right.
So, it's anger's not bad. Like, but you got to go past that. You can't ignore it, but you also can't just cling to it. You got to go deeper and see what's behind it
Right.
or
I
underneath
mean,
it.
for example, I've I've been seeing my therapist, Ray. Shout out you, Ray.
Yeah, shout out to
Real good
Ray.
guy. I mean, I think originally I was kind of forced into therapy.
You
Um,
were.
and I remember like what I'm kind of getting at with it is when I first got into this therapy idea and I was kind of again forced into it, I wasn't willing to address the real root cause or the real issues that were underlaying how I was choosing to act out or what I was portraying. And it didn't serve me any benefit. I mean, it was helpful at
No.
times to just be able to talk to somebody, I suppose. Um, but I wouldn't say that the idea of therapy and everything really like served me any real justice until I chose to actually engage in whether it be the trauma that I was bottling up, or and
Yeah.
like once I actually dug into like what was really there in the core issue, that's when I was able to start processing and really sort out what was what. But the masking emotions and the way I was, pushing that out, none of that was helpful to talk about or process through because I wasn't addressing the actual core issues. I was
Yeah.
just trying to, get through it and so on. And I think that's an important point in being able to like really open yourself up to address what's actually under all of the ways you're choosing to, push things out. Um
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing is that often, more often than not, we're all covering up these underlying, emotions and struggles and things that we've been through with, all these kinds of ways to do it, whether that's, I mean, there's a lot of ways to cover it. Most often than not, we're covering it with ways that are actually harmful to ourselves and to others, Um, for me, when things used to feel out of control, I got to a point where I just want to scream and like, rage and like lose it because it feels so out of control. And then when I realized like, okay, that's terrible, like that causes so much harm, then I a lot of times flip to the other side of that, which is to keep everything highly controlled, and like trying to keep it all together and making everything seem like it's all good. And the more I do that, like maybe that will fix it. And the reality is that neither of those are great options. Neither of those really get to what's hitting underneath. And, just like that's the work I've been working on in my own life, since 6 years ago when I moved out, the first time. Like, for those of you listening, like when Josh was in high school, I moved out and lived on my own for about a year and a half. I was dealing with a lot of stuff and dealing with a lot of stuff in my relationship with his dad. And it felt like I had to do it because I had to look at myself and figure out what was underneath it and what was buried so deep that I kept reacting in these ways that were so detrimental to my life, And I started to dig in, and then, we like that culminated again this summer. I spent 8 weeks, 7 weeks in Florida, at a place for um anxiety, depression, PTSD. And, I had to dig into those things that I grew up in and those things in me that are afraid. And, when you do that, you find yourself in like a really beautiful way. But it's a process. It's all the time, it's stuff that you so often we all want to avoid, and the reality is the avoiding just makes it worse. Like it doesn't make it better. It just continues to pile on, and now digging gets harder, I think, because you're piling now through more things that are on top of it.
Right.
So I love the fact that you are digging into that now. Like I wish I would have had that opportunity at 22. I didn't grow up in a space that gave room for that. In fact, I grew up, like we've said, we'll probably touch on this cult, but you know, science was not the thing. You prayed everything away. Mental health wasn't real. Addiction wasn't real. Like, you just, there was, I never even knew what that was. And so the fact that you, although this has been a hard road and it's not been easy, are sitting at 22 understanding that digging deeper and really letting yourself go to these things is what's going to bring you healing and bring you through it and give you a better future. Like, as a mom, like that's all I can hope for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here comes the ugly crying again.
Oh god. Um, yeah, I mean, we got probably about 6 or so minutes left on this one, but,
Yeah, I agree.
uh,
You
I
gotta you gotta limit the tears.
yeah, there's only so much crying we can do on this podcast. It's supposed to be no,
It's true.
I'm just kidding.
I
Crying
guarantee
is
you there'll
okay.
be more, but the whole episode of crying is a lot.
Well, yeah, obviously, this episode's a little different, and obviously, just so you guys know, not all episodes are gonna be ugly crying and talking about, crazy hard shit or emotion or I mean, there's definitely
There'll
gonna be
probably
a
be
lot
a
of
lot of it.
conversations about that, but this episode in particular was one of those episodes, like we said, that, we didn't wanna mask what was actually going on and, try to cover it up. But we touched on this last episode, like, I think that, like, a lot of families, like, a lot of people try to, you know, cover up what's actually going on and, hide
Yeah.
things so that they portray this certain image and people think that everything's just, going well. And that was one of those things that even in high school and stuff that I was always frustrated. It was because people knew some shit was going on. Like they didn't initially they didn't think anything, and then we as a family, like our family, we just didn't give a fuck what people thought. Like we were
It's
just like
true.
it was like fuck you if you like think something else. Like we don't care because this is real. This is what we're dealing with. This is what's going on.
Yeah, and we lost people in that. There was
Sure,
people that wanted to judge, and there was people that I said, like, "Hey, take your judgment and don't let the door hit you on the way out, because I don't need your support when it's coming in that form."
it's just as simple as like fuck them at that point. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you can't. If people are showing up in life acting like they don't have struggles, they're not being real. Like that's
right.
all I'm gonna say. I Maybe your life is perfect. I don't know, but I don't buy it. And
I don't either.
I I want to show up in life real. I want to show up being true to my journey, and I want to grow and I want to learn, and I hope in that it inspires other people. That's all you can hope for. But at the end of the day, if it inspires no one, it's still the thing that I want for my life. And I think you're wanting that for your life. I think we're
Sure. No, I mean,
moving
yeah.
in that direction
I, I was
more
talking
and
to some,
more.
I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, and I think I told you, but I'm not gonna, name names or anything. But I was talking to somebody specifically about this podcast and what we are doing, and like, carrying yourself and like what you're choosing to put out there, and like I think and I hope this podcast is um or provides, to an extent, like an outlet or maybe an opportunity for anybody, whether you're a young kid, a young guy, or a young girl that's, acting out a certain way or making, dumb choices that your parents are dealing with and this and that, and like you're trying to sort it out, you're trying to figure it out for yourself, or you're a parent that, is trying to figure out how to do it. It really doesn't matter, but at the end of the day, the goal is that this podcast allows for you guys, the listeners, and our people to feel like you can relate or at least understand and like feel some of what we're talking about in your own life. And maybe it'll help you start processing through some of it. Maybe it'll help you look at things a little differently. Maybe it'll just provide something that, you can listen to and feel like you're not the only one. You're not alone, even if you're trying your hardest. Like
Yeah.
we're all going through things. We're all struggling. We're all we're all processing and trying to walk and learn this same thing called life that none of us have really any answers to in the end
Right.
as to what happens and why we, deal with the certain things we do. But
Yeah.
I think that's the goal, is to just continue to grow and continue to learn and ultimately better yourself every day. Find a way to,
Yeah.
you know, take little steps and um, put as much good out into the world as you can.
Yeah, definitely. I will say this, like, as we're coming here and wrapping up, like, I don't want to leave just being like, "Oh, I'm just, like, so sad," and I'm like, everything's falling apart, and, it is. I am so sad, and everything is falling apart. But, what I will say is one of the things that I've learned is that you can give yourself time to grieve, like, that's okay. I spent the last 4 days basically crying in bed. And then yesterday, I made myself get up and take a shower, That was, like, the first step, and I made myself go out, and, by the end of the day, it felt a little bit better, and then I got up today, and I did the same. And that's the thing is like, when you go through hard stuff, you can give yourself room to, sit with it for a few and grieve it. Um, but then you got to move on, and I had a therapy session. We're big fans of therapy, so we would encourage you to do that. And there's life to be lived.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's good. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it there. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know it wasn't expected, but I hope you got as much as you could out of it. And um, again, episode every week. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe.